Hey, welcome to the Runaways podcast. My name is Cody. We just got back from Pro Tour, and we're going to talk about it. And I am joined today by Dan, who was also at Pro Tour with me, and we shared a room and a lot of good talks about the deck and playing and a bunch of other things that we'll get into. Then we also have Connor here with us today, who also ran the Dory Hatchet deck with us, and probably eliminated me from being able to top in draft by beating me pretty senseless with his Betsy deck. I will get to that as well. But Connor, overall, at your Pro Tour, you were stood at the top tables for a while. How do you feel how the event went? You don't have to go super detailed. We can get into that later. But overall, what were your feelings of Pro Tour?
It was good. I started 6-1 on day one, I was so excited. Like starting the day one that well, and you're like, tomorrow's the world's my oyster. And then draft day 2 went really well. I ended up going 5-1 total in draft, but the last couple of rounds of CC kind of knocked me down, kind of got me pretty good. But we managed to rally, still finished top 64, which felt really awesome. It was my first Pro Tour money finish. It was a good time. So definitely an awesome weekend. It was so cool seeing people from all the world playing with awesome players. Just 10 out of 10. I would never turn it down.
And Dan, what about you? How was your event?
I mean, it was such an incredible weekend. We'll get into my run later, but overall, it was there's nothing better than competing in a Pro Tour. And I was live for day 2 for top 8. That's all I can ask for, just as many shots as I have to keep competing, right? But yeah, it was incredible. Event was run super smooth. Judging, everything was great. Venue was all you could want, I guess. It was no issues with the venue. I'm catching up on the stream, 2 rounds, or I'm in the end of day 2, and man, the production's insane on this one. Ethan and Savage Feats and everyone involved, they knocked it out of the park. Reducing the downtime between rounds, I think was huge, and doing the camera that was spying on us in between the rounds is so sick. I almost like that better than the gameplay, just seeing what people are up to. No, it was amazing. Pro Tour weekends are my favorite weekends. Can't beat it.
Yeah, I agreed. I think overall it was a great weekend. I had a lot of fun. We got to do the thing that we always like to do, which is compete at the highest level. That's why we play the game. I got to meet a ton of people who told us how much they like the podcast or other content we did, and we always appreciate that, getting a chance to talk with everyone.
That might have been the best part for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just all those conversations and gratitude, and people sharing gratitude for the drafting Discord too. The top players from everywhere in the world were just I couldn't do this without the Discord. And that was really cool to hear.
Yeah, always appreciate people who take the time out of their tournament day to come say hi or chat with us or ask questions. All that stuff is more than welcome. Hopefully, all the interactions were great. I know they were all intended to be great from my side, but sometimes you're locked in tournaments and you don't know exactly how you're coming off at all the times. But I will say that I enjoyed everyone who came up and spoke with me or sat at a table and spoke with me. I thought it was overall a super fun weekend. It made me re-energized to come back and do another podcast, right? So that was awesome. Besides that, I think the double stream was great, and how they were able to pretty seamlessly in the broadcast weave in the extra game. You almost never get to see the extra game that's recorded, and in this case, you pretty much got to see both games a lot of the time. And overall, I think the production went good. A couple of hiccups here and there, but you're always going to have that. But probably our easily the best produced major event I think we've ever had. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk in detail about Pro Tour, some of the things how our runs went, what we thought of the meta and the top 8 and kind of all of our experiences. I did want to first announce that we still have our March contest going on. Basically, when you get a creator pack, there's 2 different promo items that come into the creator pack. And I think this time it's a boast mat. And then there is a bonus card as well. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to give them away. We're not going to keep them or anything like that. And so for the contest, to enter the contest, you'll need to be a subscriber to one of our premium Discord channels. If you are a rare Squire, you're going to get 1 entry into the contest. And if you are a Majestic, you will get 3. We're going to be doing that drawing at the end of the month as well. And then we'll send you out the item. Also, either of the premium subscribers, obviously you get, the videos that release, questions on the podcast, and numerous other benefits that come with it as well. So if you want to be able to take advantage of subscribing and getting in the contest, feel free to join in the link below. Okay, so let's jump into our actual weekend. Connor, we had an abbreviated version of yours, so I'll let Dan start this one out. Going in, I know let me set the stage. We have probably been locked on this Dory deck for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
A solid month, I think, yeah.
Yeah. We were soft locked on it for like a month and a half.
Oh, that's fair, yeah.
We officially stated to the rest of the team, we're playing this deck no matter what, probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. I think exactly 4 weeks. It was like to the day. I was like, perfect.
Yeah. There was one weekend where I went to 2 RTNs. I brought Dromai to one. I brought the Hatchet Dory deck to the other one. And I said, after this weekend, I will decide which deck I feel like playing. I played the Dory deck or the Dromai deck first. I did not do very well, but I wasn't going to, base it on how well I did. They're just RTNs. It's not the same thing as like a Pro Tour, but it just didn't I didn't like the feeling of playing the Dromai deck. Then I went to an RTN and I went 9-0 with the Hatchet Dory deck. And I said, okay, this deck's really good. I'm going to put it, let me put this away for a little bit and we're going to lock this one in.
I also did not lose any games at my ProQuest or RTN rather, with Play Dory or Hatchet Dory. Jesus.
Yeah.
The deck's insane. It's so good.
Yeah. Deck's super good. We are going to do a full deck review. Talk about like the ideas behind the deck and the matchups and everything else. We're going to release a deck tech for that very soon, which will be great. I will also be covering my gameplay that was on stream at a very high level, very in depth. So look forward to that video coming out. It's going to be pretty long, but I'm going to go through all the thought processes on every turn, what it looks like, what I'm thinking about, and how I'm playing the deck. So super valuable for anyone who wants to pick this up, because I think even moving into ProQuest season, the deck as it is a great week 1 deck. While Dromai is still alive, because this Dromai matchup is actually pretty good. But even after the Dromai, you get to then tech it out a little bit nicer once Dromai is gone. But we had 9 members on Hatchets. Somewhere in that
8 or 9.
8 or 9. I think it was 9 members on Hatchets. Overall, I think our combined CC totals were phenomenal the whole weekend. So we're kind of getting all that stats together, so I can't give you like an exact breakdown, but almost everyone basically failed out from getting in the top 8 because of draft. But we did have half of our members cashed, and you can't really complain about that when you bring like 14, 15 people to the event, and half of them make cash. Like that's just great. I mean, that's kind of the goal. I've said a lot at these major events for anyone who hasn't gone to one or goes to one. I think you have a lot of control whether you cash or not in an event. Obviously, you could still have some bad runs and have some issues, but I think if you play really tight the whole weekend, and you make good deck choices and you make good draft choices, that you have a lot of control whether you cash in an event or not. Top 8ing, you don't have nearly as much control. You got to get lucky. You just have to. There's nothing else about that. But if you continually make the good decisions to cash, eventually one of those should lead to a top 8. And if you're really lucky, a couple of them lead to a top 8, which is great. But Dan, let's throw it back over to you. It's out in the wild now. Yep. I think we were most of the Dories in the room, but there were other people who did also catch on to the Hatchet Dory list. How did your tournament overall go and feel and going into it?
Yeah, let me break it down. So I guess it started the day before when Cody and I were hanging out for a full day, kind of deciding what's the optimal usage of our time. And we decided that was to not play Flesh and Blood and kind of just relax, which is usually my preference. Like we did all the prep, right? The work was done. Just had to put it to the test. So I had a good relaxing day, kind of set the stage going in. I was just so excited to play and like compete at a Pro Tour. Like I hadn't been to the calling that was in like 2 hours away from me. I had to miss that. I missed Worlds last year. So I was just like happy and excited to be there and competing. Yeah, I'm like pretty well rested the first day. The first round pairings go up and I see, and I apologize if I mispronounced his name, Shing Sang of Team Blue Pitch. And I hadn't met him before, but a lot of people say he's like the best player in the world, maybe currently. It's the best team, maybe. I was like, oh man, this is great. Like I gotta focus up, like get right in the zone immediately. But it was just the players meeting, as it turns out. So it was a nice start. Like he was a super nice guy. I was pretty pumped to meet him. Loved getting to meet like all the international players that I did, because I really hadn't had the chance in a while. So we started there with like, I think it was kind of positive for me because it really did get me dialed and like fired up. Yeah, so I win my first 2 CC rounds. Played one of our subscribers the first round. Shout out to them. Had a nice game against KO there. But yeah, the first 2 CC rounds go pretty well. Round 3, I play against, I believe his name is Peter Ward, who eventually top 8s against his KO. Matchup goes kind of to plan. I'm like keeping ahead on life, out winning all the turn cycles. We get to the end game and he has like a double Beast Within, Blood Rush turn into my 3 Take It on the Chin hand, which is just ridiculous. Like there's 3 cards in the deck that block 2, and I drew all 3 in the same turn. So I lost. That's surely not the only reason. Like getting to that spot, if I had a little more block value, I probably win. But it was a good game. He got me good though. That's kind of how that matchup goes. It's kind of, it feels high rolly, but it happens every time you play the matchup. So it is what it is. I get my last round. I get the win there. I forget what I played against. I think it was a Jomai. I'm pretty sure it was, who had lost to Jimmy earlier in the tournament. But I misheard him and I thought he said he won. So I was like, oh man, he must know the plan to counter us, but was not the case. I offered, if he found me on Sunday, to give him all the details of how to beat our deck, but he didn't take me up on it. Feel free to in the future though, if you want to. Then I go to draft. Draft was unfortunately what I had to sacrifice a little bit in the prep process. I just didn't have the time with work and maintaining like the podcast and getting everything ready for Pro Tour and sleep. Like really, I sacrificed draft practice for sleep. And I think that's the thing that I did the best this weekend. I had like, I don't think I made a single mistake because I was tired or too hungry or too weak or anything like that. Like my mental game was great all weekend. That's probably like the thing I'm most proud of and something I can carry over. But we get to draft where I'm a little uncomfortable. Luckily, my pod is very kind and they immediately tell me I have to be a warrior. I am one of 2 warriors. I think my deck's pretty solid to very strong. I think I win my first draft round, but then I'm immediately humbled by... Oh, no, I lose the first round. I'm immediately humbled by the Champleton, Michael Hamilton himself. I'm pumped when I see that we're drafting opposite, so I get to play him because like that's what I want at a Pro Tour. Right? I want to beat the best players and like put myself to that test, which I did and I failed. His draft deck, I was like halfway through the game and I'm going through his discard and his banish because he already Kassad like 3 times because that's how good his deck is. And I'm like, your deck is just so much better than mine. Like I have no avenue to win this game, but I'm going to try and figure it out. I couldn't. I was like checkmated on like round 4, just deck quality diff, and he played it great. I was like losing by fatigue, losing by damage. There's no out. But I pull off the next 2. So I finished the day 5-2, and I'm like pretty pumped. I think I had to work pretty hard for that record that day. Not saying I got like super unlucky that day. It was just like I wasn't on the good side of variance too often, so I had to like really get edges where I could. So I was happy about that. Being live for day 2 is like the best feeling in the world. Like you go to bed like, man, anything can happen tomorrow. You wake up like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like today's my day. That it wasn't my day. Not even close. I really fumbled the draft pretty bad on day 2. I'm still trying to like evaluate exactly where I went wrong. The short answer is a lack of prep. I had a difficulty to draft and I completely butchered it. Ended up on Vinar because that's kind of like what I know how to do when things go wrong. And I think I actually had a very good Vinar deck. But Vinar not very good is the issue. I think it's a deck that I could have for sure gotten a couple wins with, but I lose to teammate Charles Dunn the first round. It's a 1 health, 1 card in deck game. If I just drafted the 3 for 7 that I was tanking on and took the 2 for 6 instead, maybe I win that game, maybe I don't. There's just like so many draft decisions I could have made better. I go to the next game. It's another Brute Mirror. I lose by 1 health, 1 card in deck again. It's pretty tragic. At that point, I'm dead, so I'm like super bummed, but trying to fight my hardest to cash. And then I go up against, I forget his name. He's one of the Magic pros. He might be from Poland, I think. But he has this great Betsy deck that just completely counters me because I'm trying to like block a bunch of cards and set up until I get like my trade in or my Bellow and Arsenal so I can go 4 wide with an Intimidator too. And he just overpowers every turn. Either he's overpowering to make might and only letting me block 1 card, or he's hitting me with overpowered concusses and letting me block with 1 card and losing a card. It was just like terrible. Or like command respect. So he would like attack my trade in Arsenal every round. Like it was perfect counters. Like all I could do was kind of laugh and enjoy like how messed up this matchup was and like the spot I put myself in. So I was pretty devastated after that loss. Pretty much just had a little sadness inside of me for the rest of the weekend at that point because I think all of us had such a good shot to win this event, to top this event, because I think our CC deck was, I mean, the evidence is kind of there by like what topped, but like it was so good. It was like probably the right deck. I think firmly believe it was the best meta spread deck you could take. I win 3 of the CC rounds at the end. Then I lose to Julian. I don't know his last name. He's maybe the best pitch staccato in the world. He's at least up there, and that's not a good matchup for the deck, sadly. So he got me good. No bad feelings about that loss. He did his thing very well, and I couldn't kill him for a cycle, so I died real good at the end. But that was my run. Again, I'm like very happy about my day 1. I think I had to play pretty well to finish 5-2 and stay live for top 8. Pretty devastated about the way I handled draft and pretty fired up to never let that happen again. But yeah, I just happy I had the shot and got to keep the dream alive as long as I did. And I'm definitely going to do better next time.
Yeah, it was a rough weekend for you after day 1. Day 2 was not great. And I know we talked a lot about that and draft specifically as well, of things to change moving forward or to think about. Obviously, it's always tough when you have team kill as well and you're a teammate in the pod, which kind of skews how you draft as well when you're both either drafting the same style or know the same style of the draft. And I think that happened quite often.
Yep. I have some homework to do during the off season. I'm going to be very like limited focused, or like I think it's really being for more 30 card deck focused, because I think it changes things quite a bit because you get to the second cycle so much faster.
Yep. And then Connor, what about you? If you want to take us through your experience at Pro Tour and everything that went on with you.
Yeah, sure. So my first 2 rounds, I played against Dash.io and then Dash, which broke my heart to have to beat up on my favorite hero. Super close games, interesting games. I felt like I had such a edge though because I've played both those decks so much and kind of knew what to look for, knew what to fight over. So I picked up those wins, and then I played against Akatsu, where I was super far ahead, and then he puts together a really powerful Ancestral Harmony double bonds turn and almost killed me. I was like at 25 at the start of the turn, and then at the end of the turn, I had no cards in hand, only Tunic as my only blocking equipment left, and I was at 4. Thankfully, his next hand was kind of crappy, and I was able to restabilize and take over the game. And then I lost to Shane Sang, the gentleman from Blue Pitch, on Victor. He smushed me. I had a shunt in my arsenal, and he had the old Command and Conquer pummel lineup, and that just put me way too far behind. And I knew he had pitch stacked like a red Thunderquake and a pummel, and I was like a little bit. I was like kind of behind on life, and I was like, once those come back up, it's game over, and that's basically what happened. And then going into draft, I was able to cut Guardian really early in the draft. I had like a single Guardian pack, and kind of I think then the next pack I had like Wonder Guardian card and then like some random yellow block 3. And so I just cut Guardian really hard. I had an awesome Betsy deck that I was able to kind of just like inevitably block out a lot of my opponents, play the long game, set up pretty powerful turns. And that was awesome. Felt really good. I would definitely say I felt a lot more prepped for draft. I think I allocated maybe even a little bit too much time to draft compared to CC. But I really like drafting, so it's hard to say no to when there's 6 people in the draft queue. But yeah, so day 1 went really well, felt awesome. Day 2, I kind of had another plan of just trying to Guardian do the same thing, and it worked. I've still fully opened Good Time Chapeau in both my drafts because of all my draft practice. And that definitely helped a lot. I lost a super close game, round 2 of the second draft, to Aiden Biensky or something like that from Canada. Really good player. He had a really nice warrior deck with a lot of attack reacts, and he was able to kill me. And then picked up my last round of draft in a super tight game where I was very far behind. I was behind on life, behind on cards, but I was able to arsenal a Wage Might. My opponent went to 4 off of, like, I think they took 1 off of a Hammer Swain or something like that. And I was able to, with the last cards in my deck, like Wage Might, Overpower, kill them to take the game. And then in CC, I lost to, sorry if you can hear my cat screeching. I lost to Dromai the first round of CC in a really close game where I think I might have tunnel vision down a line where I had an Overpower in Arsenal that for like a couple turns, and I was so close to killing him like every time. If he ever blocked the card from hand, I had enough damage, like it would have killed him. But like 4 turns in a row, he just had a D-React or Sand Cover out of Arsenal. And so I was just like, all right, we're so close. We're so close. We're so close. And then he just like got to snowball and have some dragons and finish me off that way.
I'm just confused at how you ever got an Overpower in your arsenal in that matchup.
It wasn't the ideal. Well, I was like, I'll kill him with it. And then he had the first D-React, and I was like, I'll arsenal.
That doesn't go. That doesn't go in your arsenal. That never goes in your arsenal.
Yeah, I thought I had him, but then he had me.
You got greedy. Now I know how it happened. You got greedy.
I did.
It's a greedy line.
I got tunnel vision. I really think that's
yeah.
I was like, this is gonna be sick. This is gonna be so awesome, and then it just turned out. The next round, I lost to New Zealand player Ben Dodd from he was on KO. He had a really I got ahead and I kind of weathered his first like couple blood rushes, his first cast bones. I was in a good spot, and then he like really prioritized setting up doing cast bones into blood rush. Like he had blood rush in Arsenal, found his cast bones, did that, and set up like a 20 something point turn that got him back in the game. And then he was able to finish me off the next turn with like Savage Feast with an agility into Claw, into Blue Smash Instinct that took me out. And I felt like I played that game really, really well. But I thought he played really well too. It was just one of those things where I thought we both navigated the game like almost perfectly. The Dromai game, yeah, I probably messed that game up. I think the KO game I played perfect, or as close as I can to perfect. And he just also played really well. And it was an awesome game. Following run, I lost to a Kasai in a pretty tight match also. He got to set up some gold through like good combat tricks, and he raised an army for 4 when the game was kind of getting low, and that killed me very quickly. But thankfully I was able to recover, be a Bravo in my last round, and was able to still get top 64, which was really nice. But prep wise, I felt like draft, I felt so comfortable. I'd done a ton of practice drafts. Anyone that's been in the Runaways Discord, I'm sure I've bumped into you once or twice. But CC, the edges are so hard to find, I think. Even if you have a really good deck with really good plans, and you've practiced all the matchups, you've played five-ish games of all the matchups, so is everybody else. Everybody else has a good deck. Everybody else has good plans. The margins are really narrow. And I think that I ended up going 4-4 in CC, which it's not great, but that's what happens when the margins are so narrow. So I was really happy. Had a lot of fun. Had an awesome time seeing everybody on Runaways, all my friends from out of the country, and had an awesome time. Went to a Lakers game. So it was an awesome weekend. It definitely one of the best I've ever had. But when at 8-2, I was so excited and like that mixture of like nervous and anxious and like kind of like ready to go. I had Megan Thee Stallion bumping my ears. I was ready to take down the world. But
dude, I was so excited for you.
Yeah. But
you are our only hope.
Yeah. After you beat me and then like you finished the X1, I was like, well, at least he's going to top. Like if I'm going to lose, at least, to a teammate, at least the teammate's going to end up topping. And then you like crushed the draft the next day and I was like, okay, we're there. And then I just hear, no, I didn't get the next one. No, I didn't get the next one. It's like, no, you were my hope.
You were the
all for naught.
Yeah, I tried.
I thought Pro Tour was great. Venue was fantastic. I think our hotel was pretty awesome. Being right across the street didn't hurt either. I will always try and do that every time that we go to an event. I was bringing in, obviously, the Hatchet deck. I was super excited, very comfortable on the deck. I've been playing, hundreds of games of this deck for a very long time. And I thought that this deck was the best tournament deck in the game. I still think that. It has the absolute best matchup spread that you can ask for in a tournament setting. Is it the best deck in the game? No. Is it the best tournament deck in the game? 100%. It's like one of the only decks that has like almost no 0% matchups, and the matchups that are super low percentage are just decks you're probably not going to play against, like Teklovossen or, Slabdash, decks that don't really exist in the meta right now. Besides that, you're like pretty even or favored into almost everything else. And a couple of matchups you're slightly under, but they're all playable. And I mean, you can't ask for much more than that going into a tournament, in my opinion. But round one, I sat down and played against Levia. Levia can be one of the hard matchups. I think it's a equal skill and they both know what to do in the matchup. I think it's a true 50-50. As you get sometimes when you play a deck that people aren't prepared for, my opponent unfortunately did not think that he was supposed to flip into consume this matchup, which he 100% has to. And I found that a lot of Levias do not want to flip into consume against a deck that has big D-reacts. So as soon as he saw my shunt, he was like, I don't want to flip because they're too afraid of getting fatigued. However, they need that damage to close out the game because I have the reactions. If they try and play too fair of a game, I outvalue them, and that's exactly what happened. My opponent decided not to flip, didn't get the extra value. I was able to finish him off. I then play against a KO, and I think KO were probably like 60% into that, and I think across the whole weekend, as a team, we had about a 60% win ratio into KO. The deck could have been tuned better for KO, I think. However, we had to give up some equity in order to beat Dromai. And I wasn't going to play a deck that didn't just beat Dromai. And so I played in this KO match. It went about how it normally does. They don't block everything, and you get 3 swings off, and you get a bit of a health lead. They claw it back with some massive turn, because they always have a massive turn. And then you're both low, and we are better with at low health than our opponent is, because we have reactions, and we have 2 weapons. So you kind of close it out from the game from there. I then play against a Katsu. And that Katsu is like kind of scary for the deck. Basically, we have a bunch of armor and D-reacts and stuff, so like we're favored into the matchup. But if they just happen to like get a natural hand or like a juice hand or like they get double pumps onto you, then they can like run away with the game. And once they do their whole combo, if you don't have enough health left or they have like a natural follow-up hand to that, you just lose. So it's a little bit like I don't have a ton of control here. But I played against the Katsu. And he did the thing. It was like round 2 or 3. And he goes, I block one over and he goes for reaction and reaction. So he like double reacted me. And I went, okay. I mean, that's what you have to do. He does his combo. And he flipped this combo a little bit, lost a few points of value there. However, it wouldn't have mattered. I ended up living that game at like 16 health and he missed like 8 points of damage on his combo turn. But so I would never have lost there. And then after that, I just grinded him out. Like he did his combo, but he used his boots, he used his gloves, he used his helmet. Like he had nothing left. So I was like scared of nothing for the rest of the game. I was just like, you can't do anything to me. I just block one over at all times. Like it just doesn't matter. And there's like one turn that I'm like super proud of where I'm like, the only way I lose this is if this guy has 2 reacts again. And then I just block one over because I have a take it on the chin in my backhand. And he goes, pump once, pump twice. I'm like, take it on the chin? And he's just like, no. I was like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew you were going to do this. And it ended up being like, it worked out super well. and ended up taking that match down. I then play, so I'm 3-0 at this time. I'm super excited because like I don't 4-0 in CC ever at these events. I typically lose round 1 because I just like sit down and play against my hard counter. Like that's been my last like several pro tours. Like whatever my deck was worst against is typically my round 1 match. It didn't happen this time, which was great. And then they call me and they put me on stream. I see I'm playing against Matt Rogers. Pretty excited for that because you always want to play against players that are good. And so I sit down on stream. I love being on stream. I love playing high level matches. That whole match is on there. I think honestly, my deck low rolled. I played a bunch of hit and runs for just go again, which is like complete negative value. He took a bunch of turns off because like he had to block and just like swing one thing. And then every time I had 2 D-reacts in my hand, every time that he did that the whole game, I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. I just needed like one go again at the end game that said +2 on it. And I just win the game on the spot. And it just never happened. But I'll go super detail into that game. I'm fairly confident I played that game almost nearly perfect. Watching that game several times, I can't find any real mistakes. I can find one point where I could have made a different decision, but I'm unsure if that decision's even correct. And I had Dan look through it as well. I was like, dude, am I crazy? Did I like miss anything here? And Dan's like, the only thing I could think of is that one turn where you could have done this instead. And I was like, yeah, I think that's the only thing that you could make like a real decision about. But I'll go into that in a super detailed video as well. So I NCC 3-1, super excited about that still. I was a little bummed that I couldn't get my 4-0 because I thought I was going to, but draft, I feel super confident. I'm probably just forcing Warrior most of the time. And then if I'm not allowed to force Warrior, I will play KO. I will never draft Guardian. I just decided that that's what I didn't want to do in the set. I'm going to spend all my time playing these 2 decks. I'm going to get really good at these 2 decks. And then I just won't draft Guardian. And I'm comfortable with that strat. I'm not saying that's the best strat. I'm not saying other people who are listening right now should do that strat. I'm just saying that's what I'm comfortable doing at a large event. And I won't be upset about it, even if like the Guardian seat is what's open, right? That won't bother me. I feel this gives me the best chances to do well consistently. And then sit down, draft Warrior, get all the cards I want for Warrior. I have like 23 blocks. I got a couple reactions. I could use a couple more, but I don't have them, but it's like, whatever. I got my attacks. I'm like, hey, this deck's pretty good. This deck will 2-1 100% of the time. It'll 3-0 some percentage of the time, but I gotta get lucky in some of the matchups. Play the first match. Wasn't super hard. My deck just kind of does what it's supposed to do. I have more 3 blocks than my opponent and I win. And then I see I'm playing Connor and I'm super bummed because it's not the right round. We're supposed to play each other in the next game, the 3-0 game for a draft, because then like one of us goes 2-1 and the other one goes 3-0 and it doesn't matter nearly as much. If I lose this one, then I have a chance at losing the next one. Or if I win this one, then Connor has a chance at losing the next one. So it's better to play, further down. But we play. I think I play pretty well. My deck performs pretty well, but his Betsy deck is just ridiculous. It has like way more health than me in armor already. He has like a bunch of block cards, and I have this one turn that I like, take a huge risk on, and I set my down but not out, which is like literally how I felt in this game. I'm down, but I'm not out. And I set my down but not out. And this is like not a good play, but it's the only way I think I could win. And I just feel like he's going to get a counter. He just need him to get, I have like no armor. I got rid of all my armor. He's still upping me a little bit. I feel like he's going to get a counter. And this happened to be a turn that he's like, I'm going to get a token. And he hits me. I'm down on health. I'm like, it's perfect. I set it up and it resolves. And I'm like, if this resolves, I fatigue him. I'm fairly certain that the bonus that I get from all of the counters, the health doesn't matter. I can hit him for 1. None of that matters. But I'm going to fatigue him if this thing hits. And I throw it, and he's like, sorry, dude, here's the 4th block card. And I was like, no, you've already played like 3 block cards. Like, you can't have more. And he's just like, I got it. And I was like, we're not second cycle. It's not set up. It's not pitch stack. It's just in the hand. And at that moment, I knew I lost. And I lose the fatigue after that point. I think you had like 3 or 4 cards. You weren't that far ahead of me in cards towards the end, but it was just like I couldn't keep up after that. Which I didn't really have any business winning that game, so I wasn't that upset about it. Like, I felt like if I won that game, it's because I stole it from you. It was like your game 100% to win. And so I'm X2 at this point. Deck's decent enough. I should be able to win the next one. I'm playing against a KO. I'm winning the game pretty handily. He has like a big comeback turn where he has like a 7 into a 7 turn off of a 3-card hand, and it's like, ugh, that hurts. because he had like a card set, and he's like, rap, rap, rap. And so we get pretty even. And then I set a reaction. My opponent goes to 1, and I have a reaction set. I'm at 6. I'm like, oh, I've won this game. Like, you can't lose from this position. I can give you 3 cards for the rest of the game. You could have my 3 cards from my hand. And all I have to do, I eat 2 of your cards every round or you die because I have a reaction set. Well, unfortunately, there was one way that I lose. It is a pack hunt into a pack hunt for Exaxes. And that is exactly what happened. So he plays a pack hunt. And the second I see the first pack hunt come out, my brain goes, oh no, this has to be double pack hunt. Again, this is first cycle. This is not second cycle. This is just, oops, 2 pack hunts after making an agility. And so he goes, pack hunt, lose a card from my hand. And I'm looking at him, I'm holding 3 cards, and I go, oh no, I'm pretty sure he has another pack hunt. There's no way out of this. So I just block for 6. I'm like, please don't do it to me. And he's like, pack hunt. And boom, it kills me from 6. I cry a lot. I'm like, not like actually crying, but like, I'm a little salty after that one. Good guy, had a fun time. He knew, he's like, yeah, I got you. And I was like, I know. He's like, I am a very lucky player, and I got lucky again. And I was like, like, good for you. There was no hard feelings at the end of that, but I was pretty salty to lose that way in like a game that I felt I was in pretty good control of. I had the end game state set up, and there was like literally the only way I lose is double pack hunt. And so I end up X3. I'm basically out of top 8 at that point after day 1. I could do like a salty run back and like 7-0 the next day and get 9th, like, because I've done that before. Like I did it at Lille when I got 9th. There's like a very small chance I could squeeze in at 8, but like some shenanigans would have to happen where like people tied, or like 2 people would have to lose at the same time, or pair ups and pair downs, or disqualification would have to happen for that. And so I'm really thinking about playing the calling, because I normally never drop and play the calling because the pricing is better in Pro Tour. And I just enjoy playing Pro Tour more. I just want to see what happens. But my deck is really good, and it's really good in CC. And I'm very confident in my ability to pilot this deck in finish well in CC. So I'm like, I got a really good shot if I play the calling. But I decided that I was still very confident in my draft. I was unhappy. I didn't feel satisfied with my tournament in a way that I would be able to walk away and feel okay about that. Even if I topped the calling, I knew I'd still not be happy. So I decided to play Pro Tour anyway. And I was like, I can 7-0. Let's go. And so I sit down, I play my first draft games. I get a Knucklehead, and I say, oh, I'll take that Knucklehead, thank you. And then the next pack gets passed to me, and I go, oh, I'll take that Warrior card, because I don't know if I'm going to play KO or not. I still might play Warrior. I might just say no one gets Knucklehead, which I'm completely fine with that strategy. And then they pass me a Red Bear Fangs, and I'm like off to the races. Like, fine, I'll be KO. My deck is cracked. It's just like one of the most ridiculous draft decks I've ever had in my life. I'm like, if I drafted this on day 1, this is a whole different game. And then I just run everyone over with my 3 Red Bear Fangs, 3 Red Wild Rides, Knucklehead, like arms, like, flat trackers. I have like anything you can possibly imagine. I have all the best ratios. That deck was nuts. I had no business having that at a Pro Tour. So I 3-out draft. And then I sit down and I play against a Dromai. And I think that we're really good in the Dromai. I have a lot of experience against Dromai. I have a lot of experience playing this deck in the Dromai. And I sit down and I do our Dromai strat, put my Dawnblade on, play my strat. My opponent tries to pitch stack me. It doesn't matter. I have down and dirty. I just down and dirty him on, and I basically finished the game by killing him. I did kill him with the Dawnblade, but he was basically fatigued as well. He played 2 Remembrances too. It just didn't matter. And then we go to the next game. I play against a Bravo. Not really a match I want to see. Match is okay if they want to play the game with me. Like if they want to punch me in the mouth and I want to punch them in the mouth, then like we can play that game. But my opponent submitted over 70 cards. So I also submitted like 70 cards. And I got fatigued by like 2 cards because I got Command and Conquered and pummeled. And that was basically how the game kind of ended. There was a couple of bad, like all red hands and unplayable stuff that in the middle that made a problem. I set up a really big spill blood turn and go 3 wide. And he just happened to have like the last 2 D-reacts in his deck on that turn. And he lived at 1 health. And I was like, eh. So it was a very close one. That matchup is pretty tough if they try and fatigue you. You usually have to set up a big turn like that and get all the D-reacts out. I knew he had 2 left. I checked. He had 2 left. We weren't at second cycle yet, or we weren't at third cycle yet. And I thought his D-reacts were on the next hand. I couldn't hold my hand either. Like, I'm at the spot where if I give him a whole hand, he punches me, I die. So don't get to play that. And then the tournament gets weird for me. So I'm X4 at this point. There are 2 rounds left. I'm like, okay, I'm getting my $1,500 and I'm going to get my thing. I got to win my next 2 games. And then Jim decides that they should pair me up. Not at other people who are X4, but it's like the second to last round. And they're like, here's someone who's X3. So I kind of feel bad because like, I'm kind of like, stopping them from top 8ing and I can't top 8. Like, it's just not possible. And I play against KO and I kind of just murk him with the deck. So now I'm X4 and he's X4. So he's out of top 8 and I'm one step closer and I go, okay, well, I feel a little bad because like I knocked someone out, from the top 8 or potentially top 8. It depends what round he had lost in. But it is what it is. It's how the tournament works. And then Jim decides to pair me up again. Now I'm at table 5 and no one realizes I'm X and 4. I'm like up with all the other people who are like qualifying for top 8. Like, and I'm like, I don't know why Jim decided to pair me up on my 2 rounds I need to win just to get my $1,500. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm not even getting the $3,000. Like, there's no way because of my breakers that I can get like top 16. Even if I win all my games, I'd have to go 7-0 to do it. And I didn't. And so, but Jim decided that I really am going to have to work for this $1,500. And they pair me in the last round. And I feel pretty bad about this because it was like one of the people who is like a subscriber. His name is Brandon. And he was we were talking about it and he was saying how much he likes the podcast and everything. And he had just lost the round before on stream, which means if he wins this game, he tops. And if I win this game, I get $1,500. So like, that's not the same stakes in any world. But unfortunately he doesn't say any magic words to make like a price split happen or anything, which is, not really something you can do at that level. With just like random people, it's pretty much not a thing because you can't induce like a concede. So we're just like in this weird spot and then we get deck checked. So now I'm sitting here for like 10 to 15 minutes with the guy and it's a draw my match and I'm like super favored into this match and I'm like feeling pretty bad. But also we have a teammate who could top. So I kind of have to win this matchup to like knock someone else out who's like an X3 so that our teammate might be able to win. Finally get our decks back. But because we got deck checked for 15 minutes, we end up being the last match finishing and everyone is like surrounding our table. We're at 5. I later see like in Discords, it's like pop up. Cody's at table 5 all of a sudden. Like, I don't know how he came back. He must be 7-0 today. I think he could top. It's like all of these things are happening that are not remotely even close to being possible. And then like I end up winning and the whole crowd starts cheering and people start patting me on the back. They're like, oh my God, you topped. Oh, great job. And I'm just sitting here like an imposter. Like no one knows I'm actually X4 and I'm a terrible person over here. Like that's kind of how I felt at the end of that. I got my $1,500. The opponent that I beat finished higher than me. Like that's how dumb this pair up was. For like playing at completely different stakes. So I hope that Brandon is not too upset about how that ended up. But unfortunately, like it's just Jim just decided to give me a terrible run at the end to try and get my $1,500. I was still able to cash. I was happy about that. Overall, I felt like I played incredibly well the entire weekend. Very happy with my tournament. Overall, I had a great time. I feel like I got unlucky in 2 matchups. Like the Connor loss, I 100% should lose. The Bravo one, I'm like fine with losing because like I think I lose that more often than I not if they're really playing 70 cards going full fatigue on me. It's pretty difficult. But I felt like my double pack hunt and my Matt Rogers one were pretty low rolly unlucky to lose. But that's fine. You can't always control everything. You got to get a little lucky to top. But I was able to control enough to cash again. So overall, super great experience. Then I spent the rest of the time just like hanging out with the card guys because Josh Lau topped and I was like, dude, do you know how to play the mirror? Because he's also playing hatchets. His hatchet deck was like built a lot different than ours. But so we were talking about that. I was, giving him a couple of tips beforehand to go test that night to see if he could, win the mirror, because I was really excited for him to, finally top on his hero. Like, that's like, it's always super sweet when something that you've been playing forever and then like the guy actually tops with it. So I hung out with them. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to close that out. But I mean, overall, I think the top 8 games were pretty great. Some, shiesty decisions, I think, in the finals, but it ended up working out well for Drobai to get out of here. It's gone. No more. Finally, we're free. We're all free from the Drobai.
We're not free. We were free. We had this vacation time. We could have played other card games. We could have relaxed. But no, now it's just work, because the meta is completely warped.
We got 1 week, only 1 week of the same meta, and then she's gone. Oh, I'm pumped. I'm so excited for Drobai to get out of here. Fino, you got to play a new deck. Fino's got to learn how to play a new deck now. Motivated Fino is my favorite Fino, and he's always motivated after he loses his hero. So, but overall, I think this event was ran very well. I have like no real complaints over anything that happened. I thought it was judged very well. We didn't have any big things about that. I heard they couldn't pull up the deck lists, which is why deck checks took 15 minutes because of the way they were saved. They were having issues accessing them. So they weren't doing full deck checks. They were just like spot checking them kind of, but that's why they took so long. So that was, probably a little frustrating for the judges on the judge side. But other than that, anyone else have anything else they want to chime in with how they feel about the weekend?
I feel like the biggest event issue was the guy mic checking during the first draft of the Pro Tour. Like the entire draft, he's like, check.
I'm pretty sure that was a room over.
They have to have been in a different room and just like expecting to hear their microphone, but instead they're disrupting the entire Pro Tour draft. It was like, what is happening?
I wish that I didn't feel like these packs were correlated, but whatever, they never are.
Yeah, I need to do better about keeping that in mind.
Yeah. I saw a couple packs. I was like, this doesn't feel correlated. I really wish they would keep boxes together. It's really not that difficult. But a pack here or there gets messed up, and it can, if you only have like one, if that pack is the equipment pack, then it like becomes an issue. It makes the drafts feel weird.
It's just more variants.
Yeah, it's more variants on top of variants because
it's like unplanned variants, right? You can't like. It's like actually out of your control.
Yep. Connor, did you have something else you wanted to chime in with there?
Yeah, so I got to watch the finals in person because I just kind of chilled on Sunday and hung out. And Arthur drawing the Sigil of Solace, seeing that in person was probably one of the coolest things ever. I was like I was on Max's side because I was like, I want to see the Dory side of this matchup. And he plays the Sync below, and you just hear the casters like just go nuts. Like Mitch just starts yelling, and you hear it from like he's like 150 feet the other direction, and you hear it. And I see all the people behind Arthur, and they're just like, their eyes get huge. And I was like, oh my God, did he draw the Sigil of Solace? And
that's a lot of tells.
Swings his second act, and Arthur plays it. And I was just like, my mind was blown. Like it was so awesome to see in person. Like one of the coolest moments for sure. In Flesh and Blood history, I think it's going to be like long-term highlight on every single highlight reel for forever. And,
I agree.
It was awesome seeing that person.
I agree,
really
but
feel for the
play line was still silly. It's like the Drobai's play line was silly. So I know he was trying to play around Blade Flurry. So like he was making a read that his opponent didn't have go again. He just had the Blade Flurry. But if you have to play, so he thought that was more likely than a go again. So that's why he blocked with a card at first and then blocked with a D-react over it. If he didn't have any go again, then he doesn't have to draw a Sigil. So I understand that line, but like he's gonna have go again. It's just like typically how that works. And he played his dominate card. So if you have to play it with a Sigil in mind to win the game anyway, then you just play the D-react, and then you still get the Sigil for the second attack, and then you have more. That's like completely fine. You don't give an extra card. But it's still like you have to draw the Sigil there if he has go again. Either way, right? The fact that he did, I thought was sick. I was just like, I saw the block and I was like, no, not just Blade Flurry. Don't just play around just Blade Flurry. Because I thought he had it the other way as well. But overall, was entertaining.
That's insane. I really do feel for the Dory player though. I feel like I've been in that spot before, and he's got to be gutted. Like that's so brittle. He's probably like, if you run the odds of like the chances he draws or has those two cards, it's probably like very minimal.
I think it
But
was
I wonder if
pretty
he noticed
fortunate.
the crowd reaction or not.
Yeah.
Because he could have killed the dragon, right? If he sees like everybody freaking out.
Yeah, he could have tried to kill the dragon. I will say that I think it's pretty fortunate to even be in a position to win that game.
Yeah.
I mean, that game is very hard if you have no Dawnblade and you just have hatchets. The double popper hand on the Chromai was like a really big turn for the hatchet player to be able to have. Also, I think his opponent like no blocking a bunch of his attacks and letting the game just go down to do you have a popper or not? Like if any of those turns that like his opponent says no blocks, here's a spew of dragons. If he doesn't have a popper, like he's just like he wins the game on the spot. But he had a popper every time. He did have 7, so like the odds are decent for him to have the popper. But I did feel like that game was very close. And the hatchet player was like so close to winning. So close to like a huge upset.
Mm-hmm.
But throw my gun now. So throw my gun though. I think that's great. Anything else for Pro Tour?
Nope. Great weekend. Thanks again to everyone who came up and said hi and shared their thoughts about content or podcast or anything like that. It was great meeting everyone.
I did have something funny happen where I think at dinner the night before, you guys were making fun of the fact that Noah and I looked a lot alike. And
No, you don't look like you're just the same person.
Yeah, we are the same person.
It's one and the
and
same.
then I was watching the feature match area and I was like standing behind somebody and she turns and she's like, "Are you Bedelman?"
Oh, it's so good.
And I was like, "No, unfortunately." But yeah, I got pretty well.
That's amazing.
You just have a similar demeanors and voice tone a lot of the time. So
yeah. No, like I'll literally be looking at one of you and like go to say your name and think the wrong name, the opposite name, and it's only you two.
And poor Noah, I juiced him again with Cat Dander. I felt so bad after. So he played his last match. I think it was a win-in for top 8 or like.
Did you hug him?
10th. And I walked over there and saw at the end of the game, and he lost to Josh Lau. And I was like, "Do you want a hug?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I gave him a hug. And then like 2 minutes later, I look over and he's like doing this, and I was like, "No, again? I got you with the Cat Dander again." Poor guy.
Yeah, he had a sick run, man. He's due for a breakthrough. Like,
Yeah.
if you've been to a major, you've seen him at the top tables until the very last round, and he just
heartbreaking.
just short so many times.
Okay, so let's go to our podcast questions to wrap this up. We have a decent amount of them. These are asked by members of our premium Discord. If you'd like to be able to ask questions on the podcast and all the other benefits that come along with it, feel free to join in below and also get entered into the contest for the month. Okay, from Robo, he says, now that PT is over, what was the determining factor for playing Dory with hatchets over a different dual hero like Kasai? Was it purely the Dromai match, or was it the +1 on hatchets? I'll let someone else answer this.
I mean, the short answer is the matchup spread, like we've been saying. Like, we were like dooming over. So first of all, the majority of the team like loved Warrior and like the gameplay or the how you play the deck. Like, it's nice and easy. It's like just good value. It's math. You're very consistent. You do the same thing every turn, and the most Warrior decks are modular because your deck cards either block for 3 or like they usually go +3 or a little more. So there's a lot of appeal to it. Valiant Dynamo is just so broken. Like, getting to block a breakpoint every turn for the entirety of a game that you're trying to drag out to 10 plus turns is so absurd. So we're all on that train, but we were doing pretty hard over the Dromai matchup, and like that kind of turned the matchup spread on the other Warrior decks to being unplayable in our opinion at the Pro Tour. I remember I kept hearing that Dawnblade Dory is good into Dromai. So I was like, can we just shove a Dawnblade in? And everyone's like, no, it's not going to work. It's like, okay, you guys are right. And I got to stop doing that because I did like the same thing with Belittle in Chain before it was cool. It's got to like test this on my own first. But then Charles went in the lab. He did the first version of the deck too, but he went in the lab and he's like, no, Dawnblade actually works. And then we kind of put it to the test, and I think it was kind of like off to the races from that point. Yeah, I don't know. If you just play the deck, like it's the third swing. The third swing is why you play Dorinthia. It's just so absurd. Like, it's really hard to play against, even when you know how to. But when you don't know how to play against the deck, it's just getting 1 to 2 free swings in a game, like you're actually just getting +3 value, like that's usually enough to swing it. So I don't know. There's just like so much appeal to the deck. Hard to play against, kind of unknown. Yeah, I don't know. You guys can chime in.
Sure. It's a lot of what you said. I think we have a slightly different timeline. I was always very confident on the Dawnblade side that you could beat Dory because I played a bunch of Decimator Axe. And for a while, Charles and I were going to play Decimator Axe Dory. We just couldn't beat KO. Like, we just could not get Decimator Axe to beat KO. So Charles ran off and started playing Hatchet Olympia. It was like an actual thing that he was going to bring, and he was very close to bringing it. It was pretty good. It was good. I was testing a bunch of Kasai. I really wanted to play Kasai. I still want to play Kasai. Hi, Cat. I really wanted to play Kasai. I think Kasai is a better deck than Hatchet Dory. Like, with its power turns and everything else that it has, but its matchup spread is horrendous. It just has a terrible matchup spread. Like, its Dory or its Dromai matchup is terrible. Its Kano matchup is terrible. And then it has a couple of other fringe matchups that it's like not very good into either. However, I think its Brute matchup is a lot easier to play. Its mirrors are not actually that bad. And then I think it actually has a better Victor matchup than we do as well. Because it has blood on the hands and, has cards that they have to actually give you things to block with. However, we found out through testing, we were testing the Olympia into Kasai, because we were all like, well, maybe we'll just play Olympia. Like, it's kind of does all the things that we want to do, but if it beats the Warrior Mirror and a couple other things, then maybe we have a chance. And then I was beating Charles with Kasai, and we're like, well, what if he just plays? He mentioned, well, what if I just play Zendori? And he switched the hatchets over to play Gadori, and then we realized that we were kind of splitting matches now against Kasai, and we're like, that's good enough. We can play that. And then we're like, and it has the Dromai match that it can actually win. And I was still skeptical that it could beat Kano, but Charles tested it and put in a bunch of Null Rune and stuff, and it was like, Kano's playable. Like, we could actually win that matchup if they try and first cycle us, and we can win it sometimes when they second cycle us. It's a lot harder, but we can sometimes beat them before they get to their second cycle. And I was like,
it felt like very favored first cycle. That was exciting.
We're super favored for first cycle, where I think slight underdogs if they're second cycling us. We just have to recognize it early and then just push as hard as we can. So it really depends on hand texture at that point.
And if they have D-Reacts, I think.
Yeah, if they have D-Reacts in their deck, it's like infinitely way harder, but most of them didn't. So that was kind of like why we decided to run it. It was just like, we could beat all the things. And I felt like we get an edge because people wouldn't have experience into the deck. Connor, why did you play it?
Yeah, I think not having the experience in the deck is really nice. And also the fact that Dory a lot of time is very combat centric, like combat trick centric. And so people never really felt safe blocking just because it's like, they don't know if we could have Seating Steel Blade or any of the random Dory attack reactions. I found that the third swing really helped your big hands be really good. It made redundant cases of Go Again really powerful. It let you play 5-card hands. Arsenal or Go Again card was awesome because of that, because you never really had that redundancy and felt like you had to block. So I really liked the Dory deck. Like, I thought it was definitely Charles Dunn did it again, killed it. That happens a lot in testing. He goes off on his own and then comes back and he's like, look at this beautiful thing I made. Like, Charles, you're a genius. The numbers on it are so good. So that was the main thing. Just the math on the deck was really good.
Yep. Shout out to UNG2. He called it like one of our first posts before we even started testing. It was like, I bet Hatchet Dory is a real thing now, because he still loved that deck.
Yep. Okay. Next question from Julian is, with 3 heroes being introduced shortly, more sets coming this year, and only 1 hero close to LL in sight, are you worried about the number of heroes that will be in the game? Do you think it'll be harder to onboard new players into competitive? Another angle.
I think it's awesome. I think it's good. Because new players look at just like all the options. They go on Fabry, they make a deck, they see all the available options, and they're like, this is sweet. it is overwhelming, but really a lot of the decks you can kind of cluster together, and they're pretty similar. So I think it's a good thing. I don't think it'll ever be a problem, really.
I would
I
say
can see where he's coming from in terms of like, I think onboarding new players, it's great. Like more choice, more better. Like people are just going to get attached to what they like. But I think moving it to competitive, it's like, it can be a little tough. Like that's a lot of decks that you have to like understand how to play against.
Yeah, I think I agree for competitive. It can be difficult. It depends how good some of the heroes are. A lot of heroes you could just be like write them off. Like if you looked at our tier list we made before, there was like a huge pile of like don't bring these decks to Pro Tour, which is fairly accurate to what you shouldn't be bringing to Pro Tour. And guess what? You don't really have to care about these decks. Like a couple of them might be popular and you want reps into them. You want a handful of reps into each of them just so like you have a general game plan. But like no one should be bringing these decks. So it kind of depends on how the meta looks. This is the most open we've ever had. And it honestly didn't feel like there was too much to test into. You just actually had to dedicate the time to do it. Okay. Next from Millen. Was someone on the team on Victor? He said he saw 3 Victors go 4-0 CC day 1. Do you think he's better in the meta with Dromai leaving? No one was playing dog shit heroes called Victor. What? It's bad. Victor was bad for this tournament. If you brought Victor, it was a bad choice. I don't know what else to tell you.
I got smushed.
I'm sorry.
Victor.
Sure. They can sometimes
I think the
Warriors.
The Exos were probably the team blue pitch. I know a bunch of them brought Victor. And I think they actually had like really good CC records, which I'd like to see it in action.
Yeah, I think the decks are not very good. Like now, Nathan Crawford did beat Majin Bay with a Victor deck into a Kano, but most of the time it's like a 0% matchup against like a good Dromai. That matchup is like not very good for you, unless like you get super specific hands in a row. They all think they beat Warriors 100% of the time, but they don't beat us 100% of the time. They can definitely beat us. Like the matchup is not easy for us, but it's not as good as they think it is into Hatchets. I think their KO match is not nearly as good as they think it is either. Into that match, they're just like not good enough. It's just not good enough.
I mean, it for sure gets better with Dromai leaving.
It does, but I would not have let anyone on our team play Victor. Yes.
Yeah, it gets better.
It gets better. Also, did any of us bring it? And I was explaining why none of us would even touch that deck.
No, we almost only brought the decks that top 8 did. Correctly identified what the best decks were.
Yep. Okay. Pappy asks, is new, by the looks of it, the least playable hero? That is the new one from Misfail. I can't say it's the least playable hero like we've ever had or something crazy like that, but I can say without a bunch of new support, her effect looks cool, but she looks terrible. But I'm just assuming she's going to get a bunch of support that makes her good because it can be nuts, right?
Yeah, I think the playing of the blues is like more of a Timmy type mechanic, right? Like this sounds awesome. I'm going to play their blue cards. Like, what are you going to do with them?
No, the top part. It's the top part of the text that's my issue.
Vanishing actions?
If it blocks as a stealth card, it resolves it. But your stealth cards don't have go again, and typically you're switching.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Off your stealth cards. Like, yeah, exactly. It's like, well, we need stealth cards that do something because all of our stealth cards suck, and her ability doesn't work with how the stealth mechanic currently functions. So she's going to need like a bunch of support with new types of stealth cards that do something, not just have the word stealth on them, in order to make like that top text actually do anything.
She can notably play Codex of Frailty, so
yeah,
that's like a huge tick in her direction already.
That is a huge tick.
Yeah, she needs support. I agree.
Yeah, we need stealth to be something brand new. Mystic stealth is going to probably be a whole new mechanic. Is what I'm going to assume. Okay, Cusco asks, and by the way, it was nice meeting you, Cusco at Pro Tour. So I appreciate you came up and said hi. Were all TCG players at the end of the day? We are all TCG players at the end of the day, and everyone likes shiny cardboard. What is the coolest or the thing you're most excited that everyone picked up during the weekend? And does anyone have any guess how Chi is produced? So I'll start with what's your favorite shiny thing or that you got that weekend?
I don't like shiny things. I just never have liked foils. I'm not sure why. I just like base rarity of everything. But I do like stamped cards. So I got a stamped Good Time Chapeau for my Betsy deck and a Miller's Grindstone. And those I'm pretty excited about.
I have 3 shiny things I'm very happy to be home with. One was the armor token from Blue Pitch that Shang Tsung gave me during a players meeting. It's got like the -1 armor on one side and then the -2 on the other for your balance of justice. That thing's pretty sweet. I got a stamped foil. What's it called? Blade Flurry. That card's sweet. It represents the deck we played, so I like that a lot. But by far the best takeaway is now in my stomach, and that was the fatty tuna sushi at, I forgot the name of the sushi place.
Sugarfish?
But it was incredible. Sugarfish, yes.
Fish.
Oh, I will never forget the fatty tuna.
That fatty tuna was great.
So thank you.
We had sushi twice. It was fantastic. I was very happy about that decision that we made. That is a pro move. The thing that I got, obviously stamp cards. I love stamp cards. Every time I build a deck, if I have stamp cards, I go to my stamp cards first and put them in the deck. And I always crack my locals up because I'll be like, LSS stamped card when I play it. Like, they seem to get a kick out of that. I think it's hilarious. And then like, because my Drumline deck is like, it's like 60 to 70% stamped cards from LSS.
Same.
Because I drafted Drumline so often, and that cycle was so long of drafting that set. And then I also got Cold Foil Hatchets. That's my other thing that I was super happy.
That.
So
the whole team got hooked up.
Yeah, it was like at the dinner. We're at the dinner and we hear that like
I think Connor told us, right?
Was it Connor? Was it you? No, it was Lucas. It was Lucas.
Oh, it was Lucas. Yeah.
Yeah, Lucas comes up. He's like, "Hey, by the way, one of the stalls over there has Cold Foil Hatchets, like $30 a pop." And I was just like, "What?" They're like $50 to $60 on TCG Player each. Yeah. And I was like, "Okay, I need some foil hatchets." And we all ran over there and we're like, Can we get these hatchets? And then we like slide it into our pocket. Like no one can see that we just
like
these hatchets
under my hoodie.
Yeah. No one can see these cold foil hatchets that we just got.
So funny. And like the price wasn't even that good. Like that's what it cost before, like a couple months ago. Like,
yep,
plenty of time to get it at that price, but it was a nice upgrade for the event.
Definitely a nice upgrade. Okay. And Fighting Walloon asks, what is your team's process for debriefing after the Pro Tour and identifying lessons learned before the next cycle starts? I can talk about this. I will say, typically, we have like maybe a meeting to talk about things. That's like one way we've done it. We've also done like questionnaires, and then we just like did general forms of people to give feedback on how they felt the cycle went, what they felt they lacked in the cycle, and what they would like to do for the next cycle as well. And we've done that, after every single one to try and improve. But overall, very happy with our testing. I'm very happy with our CC deck. Very happy that half of the team cashed, which I think is really good. It's probably the most members. I think it's most members we've ever had cash. Same event, or it's like tied for that Nationals event, but that's not a Pro Tour. So that, this is the best event with the most people we've had cash. And I think our deck is just awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm most happy with our CC win rate. We have to get the final number, but I think it's significantly higher than we've had across the team for any format.
Mm-hmm.
So like debrief wise, that's something we can focus in on and try and replicate, right?
And to be fair, a lot of our draft losses were to other members on the team, or just having other members of the team in the same draft pod. So, it happens. It's just that like if you beat a teammate in draft, you should top the event. That would be nice. That's like the kind of thing to do. That's like the nice thing to do. That's that's what good teammates do. They beat you in draft and then they top the event.
Yeah, I actually lost out of spite. I was like, I just want to make Cody feel extra bad about getting smushed.
Dude, I was so bummed when I sat down against Charles in the day 2 draft. It was like my biggest regret was I could have had a very solid warrior deck or like a busted Betsy deck. So I was like, I just hope Charles is one of those, and like I'll try and cheese a win. If I don't, it's fine. He'll have a great deck. And he was just one of the 3 brutes. And I was like, I hope he can pull it off, but like I would have felt so much better if it was the other two. We like double whammied each other.
Mm-hmm. I know Fino and James were in the same draft pod twice. Just like back to back same pod. It's just like just garbage. I know Charles eliminated Dalton on day one, and then you on day 2, and it's just like, come on.
Happens
again.
Every time.
How do we lose drafts? We lose them to other runaways. This is the issue. And Mark Morrison, and now a couple more people to that list.
I mean, I lost because I drafted poorly, but that's okay. There was no option for both of us to win. Is your point?
No, Mark did not get any of us this time.
That was the real victory.
That was the real victory. Okay, well, I had a great time. Can't wait for the next one, which will be Nationals, and then a month after that, we have another event.
So
like we're like in crunch time now. It's great. We get 2 weeks off, 2 whole weeks off. Quotation
There's
marks.
no weeks off. I'm so ready
It's not
to go.
really.
I got to draft.
And then we are playing for invites to Pro Tour. What is this? 5? 4? Can't wait. I'm excited. So anyway, let's go. Got to get out of here. We've done enough.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the envelope
7
here, but
envelope.
What we could do here is go ahead and play the envelope.
All 3 pitches of Envelope in Darkness.